Hey, welcome back. You're listening to the Hippie Martha Hormone Hour, and I am Ashley, your host. Today, we are going to be talking about fertility awareness based methods, what I teach, and the common misconceptions that people get when they ask what I do. So, I really want to kind of focus on just some basics and really just clear up some common misconceptions that people might have based on me being a fertility awareness educator. So, first off, if you're new to the fertility awareness scene, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And whether you're dabbling in or going all in to a fertility awareness practice, there are lots of information out there that can be super confusing. So let me start by saying that one, there isn't just one fertility awareness based method. And two, that I think one of the common misconceptions that I receive frequently is that practicing a fertility awareness based method isn't accurate and it causes a lot of unintended pregnancies. Two is that you can only use it when you are trying to get pregnant. And three is that it is just this, a lot of people will say, you teach NFP. So we're going to go over those three things. So first, I want to start off with, I think I pointed out or counted at one time roughly 35 different types of fertility awareness based methods. Now, the term fertility awareness based methods is really a newer term coined by Georgetown University that really is this overarching umbrella term that holds all different types of practices that are cycle tracking practices. Now, when I say this, I want you to think of like this map, and I'm going to give you a kind of this like bubble graphic that explains what I'm talking about. So if you can imagine fertility awareness based method in the middle, like of a piece of paper in a bubble graph, okay? And from there, we have three different based methods. One is a calculation based, two is a combination based, and three is observation based. So under that calculation based bubble, this includes the calendar method, this includes cycle beads, it includes standard day method, 2-day method, the lactation amenorrhea method, astrological birth control. I mean, this is all based off of like if you have a very regular schedule for your cycle, this is where like the rhythm method comes in. So this is your grandma's birth control. Now, lactation amenorrhea is in there, and I would consider lactation amenorrhea method to be pretty accurate with the studies that are given. And I talk about this a lot in my postpartum course because it is really helpful, especially if you are breastfeeding and trying to use a fertility awareness based method. You can include this method with your other more scientific methods. Okay, so calculation is literally just calculation. Next, I want to go on to the combination based methods. Now, these combination based methods include sympto-hormonal. So you're basing your practice off of symptoms such as cervical fluid, BBT, as well as cross-checking with hormonal tests. So like an LH strip, like if you're using like a Mira monitor or the Marquette. Under this method, FEM and Marquette are two very popular methods that are under this sympto-hormonal method. Then under this Sympto-thermal double check method, this includes couple to couple, Sympto Pro, Sensiplan, NFP, Serena, and these are going to be a lot of your religious based methods. I think Sympto and Fertility UK are secular, but this is going to go with you're going to use some type of calculation along with Sympto-thermal. So you're going to pay attention to your cervical fluid, maybe cervical height and opening, as well as a basal body temperature or a BBT. And then you're going to use also some type of rule for calculating when your fertile window would open and when it would close. Next is the calculothermal, and this is really most apps that use this method. And you could input, your BBT, your cervical fluid, or you can just pop in your period and it's going to basically give you a roundabout answer of when your next period will be, based on a calculation. So it's not in real time. Another thing that's under the calculothermal is the Daisy app or the Daisy monitor or whatever it is. And then we have observation-based methods. Now, there's a bunch of, if you can think about it, there's a bunch of different bubbles off of this. We have a sympto-thermal single check method. We have a temp only. We have cervical fluid only. And from that cervical fluid only, you notice that there are two different methods. One is a Billings and one is Crichton. Both of those are religious methods, and those tell your fertility based off of just cervical fluid only. So they go really in depth. There's a bunch of rules regarding cervical fluid and what it looks like and so on and so forth. Then there's the temperature only. This is only taking a basal body temperature and seeing if there is a thermal shift, and that is it. It's pretty straightforward. And then finally, we have kind of probably the most popular of the secular group, and that is the Wells, which is what I teach, is a sympto-thermal single check method. Now, the Well we can give you a double check, but in our rules and things like that, we typically just follow a single check, meaning we're opening up the fertile window with cervical fluid and we're closing it with temperature shift and cervical fluid. So we're kind of doing like a cross check. Other methods in this organization or group includes Taking Charge of Your Fertility by Tony Weschler, Justice, and the Pour Over It, I think is French. Don't kill me on the name. But either way, every method is different. I think when we look at these different methods, we really need to see what is best for us on an individual level and really just make sure that, it's going to be sustainable for you and your practice and what you want as far as family goes. So I always recommend starting with what your intentions are, meaning what is your goal for using a fertility awareness-based method? In my fertility awareness charting course, I use an intention scale. In this scale, I have you ask yourself, what is your intention of pregnancy on a scale of 0 to 10? 10 is, I want to get pregnant now. 0 is absolutely no pregnancy. And of course, you can sway within the middle. Your mind can change whenever it wants to. But that's kind of where do you fall on this intention scale? And then why does it matter? So ask yourself, what would happen if I got pregnant? Or what would happen if I didn't get pregnant, right? Why would you feel that way? And I want you to just kind of take a mental note of why. And then how can you or the people around you honor that choice that you choose? And I think it's really important that your choices can so your intention might be immediately, I want to get pregnant. And then after pregnancy, after you have that baby, your intention scales might change. You might need a break, right? And so that's kind of where you need to fall on this scale and where is your risk spectrum at? So you could also want to just learn more about your own cycle health. Maybe pregnancy isn't a thing for you. And while this scale may not apply within your life at this time, there is definitely no one correct answer, and it is definitely an individual personal choice. I think acknowledging that all of these methods are not the same and have different efficacy rates is a good thing to know. Some better than others. this is where that efficacy comes in, and we really want to kind of understand and consider, um, you know, how each method has different rules. They have different regulations to follow, some of them more effective and some of them less effective. So when I talk about efficacy, what I'm referring to is the rate of unintended pregnancies that occur while using a specific method. And once again, this is where those intentions come handy. So, for instance, the symptothermal method with perfect use, meaning you're following the rules to a T that you learned from a certified fertility awareness educator, 99.4 to 99.6 effective. While comparing that to the 2-day method, which is a calculation-based method, that for some people, if you have a regular cycle, it can be 96% effective with perfect use, or it can drop and be 86% effective. I want to just say that I discuss all of this very, very thoroughly in my body literacy and cycle charting course, because I think it is important to know that we can use specific methods that fit our values, that fit our just, and then I know I talked a little bit about it, but this is one of the common misconceptions that I get, is that what I teach is natural family planning. And natural family planning came about from the Catholic Church, and it's extremely popular. It's very out there. Like, people have heard of natural family planning, but they may not have heard of the Wells fertility awareness training, right? Or taking charge of your fertility. And so this, I think when people say, oh, so you teach like NFP, and while it's very similar, I just want to note that it is very different when we get into the rules, when we get into the education, the literature. NFP is strictly, you have to follow the Catholic rules for NFP, whereas the method that I teach is secular. So the method I teach is the Wells method. It is a single check symptothermal method. And with this method, you are taught how to open your fertile window with cervical fluid, and we close it with a basal body temperature and cervical fluid combination. There is optional instruction for cervical checks in addition to calculations if needed for more assurance, but you're going to learn how to accurately open and close your fertile window, the time in which you are most fertile, and spoiler alert, it is not every day of your cycle. You will also be given instructions on how to chart your cycles with the basal body thermometer, as well as marking and making daily observations of your cervical fluid. So I specifically teach you skills of body literacy, which is a skill of tuning into ourselves to read and understand the language of our bodies. And you will also learn how to interpret your own charts for preventing pregnancy, planning pregnancy, or for health purposes. In the end, this practice should only take about 3 minutes, but it will enhance your knowledge as well as your overall self-awareness. Now, this is definitely a lifestyle choice, and it truly is a self-care practice. Being able to track our menstrual cycles and our hormones in real time can help us to make decisions based off of what we observe. And it is backed by science and can be very effective so long as you follow the guidelines given. However, this is where a lot of people struggle because we are not used to trusting ourselves. And so this is almost like a big trust fall when you start using a fertility awareness-based method, especially if you're using it for contraceptive purposes. And the reason I say that is that it is a self-reliant method. Now, it's your job to not only work with an educator and learn the material, but also to be consistent, ask for help, know your risks and facts, and make wise choices. So sometimes that can be really hard when we're in our fertile window and we're feeling frisky and we make bad choices. But this is why I chose the method that I did instead of a religious method, such as NFP, because I am able to consult on all the things. And being the nurse, I truly want to be this middleman representative. I had sex during my fertile window and I do not want a baby. What are my options? And in NFP, there aren't any. It is what it is. However, there are many options out there. And I guess based on your preferences, maybe your religious beliefs, I can conform that and I can help guide you through that, which if I were to only teach the NFP method, I cannot do that. So that is one reason why I chose a secular method, even though, yes, I am Catholic, but I am also a nurse and I believe we all deserve the information out there. We deserve both sides and you get to ultimately make that decision. I am not making that for you. So as far as going back to fertility awareness is only for those trying to conceive, this is such false information because it is not just for those trying to conceive. And I am living proof that I have used this method for the past 6 years to truly gain so much amazing health information just from charting my cycles. And I promise you that it's really amazing what working with a provider can do and what you can find and pick up on a simple chart. So who can use this and why can they use this? So I have taught fertility awareness to teens. I have taught it as for natural birth control for those coming off of birth control. I have taught it to those who are trying to conceive. I have a full postpartum course of how to chart in your postpartum phase when you have irregular cycles, when you are nursing, or if you've had any issues in the delivery room, things like that. It's amazing. You can also use it as period prediction for irregular cycles. So if you have PCOS or endometriosis, it's great for that. My next thing, and for me personally, I have been using my charts to help me identify early signs of perimenopause. And believe it or not, I have been able to help naturally boost my estrogen and progesterone during these perimenopausal years by using my chart and knowing where I'm at within it, what supplements and what herbs and what things I can do to either increase or decrease or balance out my hormones in real time just by using a chart. Using fertility awareness based method is amazing also if you just want to live more cyclically, if you want to get in touch with your hormones, your inner body, your inner cycle. And it's really good for those who are having health issues or if you want to chart for health purposes. I have had so many, undiagnosed or women who come in with all these symptoms, yet their labs still look good. But then when I have them start charting, I'm like, oh, wow, have you had a full thyroid panel done? Or, wow, have you checked your gut recently? Or things like that. And we find so much. And then they come back to me and they're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Like I finally had a starting point. This is what we found. And I'm feeling so much better because of this. So the final one is really inclusivity of religion or personal beliefs. So what I love about the method that I personally teach is it can apply to every single human being. It doesn't have a restriction. And because it's an observation / sympto-thermal method, I'm really teaching you these life skills that will help you to understand not only what is happening in your body at that moment or within the few days leading up, but also to just like reconnect. I feel like we are so disconnected um, to our cycles, to our bodies, and there's all this like negativity surrounding our cycles. And maybe your relationship with your menstrual cycle isn't good. Or maybe you had, your tubes tied or a hysterectomy, and you're just really looking to reconnect with your body. And different methods can help with that. And I think it's just really important to kind of work through maybe what is best for you and um, and see what skills you need and what skills maybe you don't need during certain times of your life. So, in review, there are so many different methods. Obviously, I'm partial to the method that I teach, but if you are looking to just kind of dip your toes into fertility awareness, maybe you're still on birth control, maybe you don't need birth control, but you're like, oh, I'm intrigued, reach out for a discovery call. I definitely can help you decide if what I teach is right for you, or maybe I help you find a different provider that can give you what you truly need. So, that being said, those are some common misconceptions, but I do think that being able to empower you and to guide you with your own natural hormones is truly going to give you more vitality throughout your life. And it can help you kind of cycle through your life in a more meaningful way. And I don't know. I love being able to help others kind of have this aha moment of, oh my gosh, yes, this is what I want. And so hopefully, it doesn't have to be a full passion of yours like it is mine, but it definitely can be something that is attainable for anyone with or without a womb. I love educating partners as well. So if you have a partner and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to practice this, but I'm not sure if my partner's on board, have them come to the call too. So anyway, all right. Thank you so much for listening, and I will hopefully talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.